So that means we are live with another Money Move show. I'm
Money
excited
Moves
about today.
Tuesday.
That's right. That's right. So welcome, Wendy Lee. As always, great to see you here.
You
Helping people
too.
with money. And I'm excited today. So we've got an event coming up. For those of you that are small business owners or solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, call it what you want. We've got an event coming up that we're sponsoring with a couple different speakers on, I believe it's March 3rd. We'll put the link out there via Eventbrite. Money moves for small business owners. So that's actually what we're going to kind of lead into with today. Is all about the small business and stuff like that. And I'm a small business owner. I believe you're a owner of several small businesses, right, Wendy?
I am, yes.
So there's a lot of challenges that you go through with being a small business owner and things like that. So do me a favor. If you know a small business owner, reach out to them real quick via text or whatever, share this link and let them know that we're going to get started here in just a minute and show them how to make some money moves as a small business owner. So welcome to the Black Swan Money Move Show with your host, Wendy Lee, and me, John C. And today we're talking about challenges and the top 3 things that you want to focus on or that you're going to be challenged with as a small business owner. So what do you think, Wendy? What kind of jumps out?
Yeah. Well, for me in the very beginning, it was just like what to do with your money when you make it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, where do I put it? I always had this, especially when you start out small and, a lot of the women I work with, they start out making a couple $100 a month in their small business.
Yep.
And so they just put it in their checking account. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happened with me, all of a sudden I was really growing, but I hadn't shifted the way I managed the money.
Yeah.
And found myself in a pickle when it started to get to be a lot. And I had write-offs and all these things. So I think, for me, the biggest and the first part is knowing what to do with the money when it comes in, looking at revenue and saying, how do I divide it up and where do I put what?
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people start their small business or, solopreneur, network marketing. We work with a lot of network marketers and things like that too, or 1099 independent contractors.
Right.
And typically it starts off with a little trickle, right? A couple $100 here, whatever. And that's really where you can start developing some bad habits quickly. Because like you said, what do? I just throw it in my checking account and, it's no big deal. I'll owe some taxes on at the end of the year, but I'm not making a lot, so it doesn't worry about it. But once you truly evolve into that small business ownership, where you're actually, okay, wow, this is real. I'm making some money. You've got to get efficient with your cash. So that's kind of number one, is getting efficient with the money. And, there's several things to think about when you're looking at that. Number one is the cash flow, right? What's coming in versus what's going out and how does that all work? And we've got a video out there where we talk about different buckets you put your money in.
Yeah.
Because, you've got to allocate for income to you, right? I mean, that's the whole reason you got in the business, is to make some money and to be able to celebrate that and have some extra stuff. And the second thing is, looking at the taxation, right? The taxes on it. I always joke that the IRS, you put those 2 words together, it spells theirs. The IRS spells theirs. They're going to get theirs out of your pocket, and you better have it, or it gets ugly. And so, you want to allocate at least 15-20% for taxes. And if you do that a little bit every month or a little bit every time you get paid or whatever, it's not that big of a deal, as opposed to waiting to April 15th and you're like, oh crap, I owe $15,000 or whatever the case may be. Right.
Yeah. My first shocker was year 1 of my business, I owed nothing. Year 2, I owed 50,000.
Holy cow, man. You're
what?
Nothing. You owed 50,000. So that's where you get one of those, oh crap moments, right? And and that's what happens, folks. I mean, you have a little business and all of a sudden it becomes a little big business. And it's like, man, I mean, I've got people in our business that work, they're working 10, 15 hours a week, making 50 grand with us. And if you don't kind of plan for that and have those buckets and get efficient with it, and not only that, is developing, kind of that spending plan too. What are you going to allocate? So, and you want to reinvest in your business too. That's kind of that third bucket out there. But the other thing that comes into that we're going to be talking about at the event is, how do I leverage? With personal stuff, we talk about, getting in debt and things like that, and to avoid that. But even on the personal side, we leverage buying a car, right? We use bank money typically for that, or leverage money when we buy a house. So a business is no different, right? If you've got an opportunity to grow, but you've got to look at it, is this decision enabling me to move forward towards my financial goals, or is it pulling me back from my financial goals? What I'm not saying is use leverage to finance a team trip to the Bahamas or something like that, right? And I've known people that have done that, and they end up getting themselves in a little bit of trouble. So, number one is that kind of that efficiency in your money, and that's a whole conversation we could spend hours on talking. Matter of fact, we are going to talk about that at the event. Is getting efficient with the money. But the second thing you hear about with small business owners, especially when they get started, is, oh man, do I do this as a solopreneur? Do I need to go out and start my C Corp or my S Corp or an LLC and all these different things? I mean, I hear that a lot. I mean, have you heard that? Or in the network marketing world, I'm sure it's a big thing too.
Yeah, we actually were just at a retreat and talked about this, and kind of the advice that was given to the network marketing group by the people that are making, tons of money, is once you hit that 50,000 in income mark, you want to look at setting your corporate structure up differently. And we always recommend, of course, you got to talk to your tax professional and see what's best for you in your state. But typically having an LLC with an S Corp election where you get to pay yourself a salary and then you write off that salary and you get taxed differently on the money you pay yourself, winds up giving a huge tax advantage. I know for me personally, like I said, that first year that I owed 50 grand, that was me as a solopreneur. When I set up an LLC with an S Corp, that same income brought my tax bill down to like 10 grand. So it was a massive difference.
Crazy.
For me.
It's crazy. And I want to stress too, number one, we're not giving you tax advice. We're telling you, and we've got a video out there about putting your personal experience, and you want to put a team together, right? A team of experts. You don't need to know everything. Right. Okay. But you need to find people that can help you and coach you in those different areas. But it's amazing. And these are the tax breaks that the wealthy have been getting for years. Right. And so what we're doing now is kind of, hey, you want to consider this, or looking at, typically people run to the LLC, but the LLC doesn't really give you any tax breaks. It gives you legal protection if you're, working in somebody's home or something like that, where an S Corp would give you the taxation breaks too. It's still kind of a pass through from a taxation, but it's how that money's taxed. When you like Wendy said, you can actually pay yourself a salary, which helps. And then you can still get the other money too that you normally would have received, but it's taxed in a different style and at a different rate. So it ends up saving you a bunch. I mean, when I sat down and started building my financial team, I'll admit it, right? I'm not proud of it, but I'll admit it. My business started growing relatively quickly, and I was still using H&R Block, right? And good company, not knocking them, but they're geared for the W-2 employee, the cookie cutter approach, right? And so I was missing out on a lot. So when I started interviewing somebody for my tax team, I ended up met an individual, had an interview. We were like-minded, kind of things like that. And you want to interview these people, but I showed him my taxes. I'm like, what would you have done differently? And he came back and said, well, I would have structured your entity a little bit differently, and you would have paid about 40% less in taxes.
Yep.
I'm like, so I just gave that money away and that's the thing that's really the eye opener. And think what you could do in your business, that 40% of reinvesting it back in your business, how much faster you could grow and things like that. So, you want to use this and use that team and to do a couple things. Number one is to protect yourself. Right. Depending on what kind of business you have and things like that, being out there and looking at, I don't want to get sued And if I do get sued, I don't want them to attack my personal IRA, my personal home, and things like that, which if you don't protect yourself, guess what? They can.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the second thing is to protect my income.
Mhm.
You know, how can I use that to protect my income from taxation, like we were just talking about? So
Yeah.
yeah, I was blown away.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you and I talked about it, you know, I know you were kind of dealing with some stuff, and I'm like, okay, I just want to keep my money.
Right.
And you know, and it's one of those things that having the right team in place. I mean,
And it's so important. And, you know, some people that have their structure the right way, you know, they're like, oh, old news, right? But it's amazing how many people I talk to that don't have it set up the right way and have no clue that that's even an option.
the
And
vast
so,
majority.
yeah. Yep.
The vast majority. And, you know, people run to that LLC. I think that's just because everybody knows it.
Right.
But what is it really doing for you? And that's why, again, it's important to talk to somebody who knows the tax code and can guide you on that. And you may evolve, right? I mean, I wouldn't run out today and start and you know, my day one and start an S corp. If you got a small business, you're just kind of starting. Start as a solopreneur, but you use that milestone Wendy just talked about $50,000 in income. Now I want to look to the next evolution. You know, for our business, I use $100,000. Is that okay? Next evolution. But you may want to start an LLC right out of the gate for the personal protection, right? But that's what these tools are designed to do. But again, talk to a tax professional and get the guidance that you need for your business, because it is different.
Yeah.
And then the other big strategy, and I just had a conversation on this morning, or not strategy, but the big challenge with business owners is the exit strategy. Right. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever talked to anybody about that or thought about that for your own businesses?
So I sold a business
Mhm.
for quite a bit of money, and I just put it in my bank account and spent it. So knowing what I could have done with that.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about it.
Well,
you're educated on this way more than I am.
It's one of those things that, you know, typically when you're a business owner, what happens is, you know, everything goes into the business. It's almost, and this isn't everybody, but it's the vast majority of business owners I've talked to, you know, they'll even forego taking an income to keep the business up and running and things like that. And, you know, the first thing you've got to realize is the business is there to pay you, not the other way around, right? The business is there to pay you. And I remember having a conversation a few years ago with a gentleman that literally he was getting ready to lose his house, everything. And, you know, his whole thing was, I can't pull the money out of the business. I got to keep the business afloat. And when you get so entrenched in a business, it's your baby, it becomes passion, you're passionate about it, things like that. I can see where people can get lost, right? Now, keep in mind, when you first start a business, it's not going to pay you because it's like a plane taking off, right? You get all this energy and then finally it gets off the ground. But this person had been in business for 12, 13 years. The industry had kind of changed. And so now his income was going downward. But you need to have an exit strategy of, you know, when am I going to say, okay, enough's enough? Or, hey, I'm having great success. I'm going to sell my business. How do I keep a lot of that money? Because, you know, the conversation I had this morning, the gentleman was going to sell his business for about $8 million. And the conversation or the question was, what's the tax strategy to keep that? And he's like, I don't have one. And so they're going to get theirs, right? So you want to have that strategy. How can I, as you're developing the business? So the best time to start looking at your exit strategy, and I tell this to real estate investors too, you make the money when you buy the house on real estate investment because you've already got that exit strategy or two in mind. Same thing with your business, your small business, right? When you build it, it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, I'm going to pour everything into this for 10 years and then I'm going to sell it and it's going to pay me, you know, a bunch of money. That may not be the case. The industry could change. You may think your business is worth more than other people do, so you're not going to get as much money from it. And then you've got to look at the tax strategy on that too. And so you've got to look at, how can I have this business turn into a lifetime of income for me? And it can, if you do it right and have the right exit strategy or exit strategies. And that's one of the things that, you know, again, on this business event we're going to have on the 3rd, we're going to talk about that because it is crucial. I mean, I don't know. Have you had a friend or anybody you know that sold a business and it was like this nightmare of, not necessarily a nightmare, but a huge financial hit?
Well, yeah. I've known, yeah.
Okay.
I knew people that sold a business for $3 billion.
Okay. So
Now,
that's a
granted,
big
you keep
amount.
a big chunk of that anyway, right?
Yeah.
But the taxes and the things that, you know, the money that probably could have been kept that wasn't,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
massive. But,
Yeah.
you know, and I wanted to say too, like for me, I never thought I'd sell a business. So I grew a network
Mhm.
marketing team.
Yep.
And the company I was in, you could sell your downline. And I wanted out and I sold my downline. So I want to, for those watching that are like, I'm not building a business I could ever sell, like you never know, right?
Mhm.
You never know what could happen in the future. My sister has a candle business and like she gets orders constantly. Well, she's
Mhm.
tired of making candles, you know, and I'm like, you can sell that business. So I think some people think this big, like, oh, if I didn't come into it to plan on selling it, it still needs to be something you think about because you never know when you're going to have a shift in your life and you go, I don't
Yep.
want this anymore. Instead of just dropping something,
Yeah.
right? And when you have revenue coming in, you know, look at selling it and then having a plan in place to do that. So
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, and there's so much more that you could talk about with small business in money moves and things like that. And like I said, March 3rd, be at the event.
mhm.
But it's really, you know, looking at I want to own a business. I'm passionate about something, but I want to be efficient with my money because the whole
Right.
point is to keep as much as possible,
Right.
right? So that's number one, being efficient, developing a spending plan, developing your tax buckets and things like that, so you can have the money. And that's going to take away so much stress from being a business owner because that's one of the big things that kills businesses is cash flow, things like that, right? Number two is, okay, now that I'm building this empire, I'm being efficient with my money. How do I protect it? How do I protect myself? How do I protect my business? How do I protect my income coming in? And that's where the proper structure comes in. And then lastly is, even though you may not use it, what are the exit strategies that if something happens, my health fails,
Mm.
I lose key employees, the industry changes, right? Or I get tired of doing what I'm doing, you know, like your sister was just talking about, right? You don't just want to shut the door because that business is a valuable asset. You
Right.
can turn around and sell it. How am I going to protect it? And then also, how can I have my business create a lifetime income for me even after I sell my business? And that's possible if you've got the right coaches around you showing you how to do this stuff as you're evolving, as you're building. And it's not too late. I mean, if you've already started your business or maybe been in business for, you know, several years, you can still put these things into play, right?
Mhm.
So sit down with us, reach out to Wendy, reach out to me, or better yet, be at the March 3rd event. And like I said, we'll post that out there in the link, and it's going to be via Eventbrite. So, and it's a virtual event, so you can literally attend from anywhere. But we're going to do a deep dive on all of these different things to make you, you know, enable you to think about this stuff and start planning now, as opposed to all of a sudden a life change happens or you're ready to tap out or whatever the case may be. And you're like, well, how do I figure it out?
Yeah.
Because that's going to end up costing you so much more down the road rather than if you just put a little bit of work in today. So that's all I've got, Wendy. I don't know. You
I
got
love
anything
it.
else to add on that?
No, I think it's great. Be at the event. We'll put the link in the comments and hope to see you guys there. Invite people.
Yeah. And do me a favor. You know, we're kind of condensing our videos a little bit. We're going to be in that 15 to 20 minute range now.
Mhm.
Subscribe, hit that little button down there and click that bell so you make sure you get the notifications. We're also going to be on IGTV or whatever the new name is going to be. They're actually changing that format a little bit. So do me a favor, share it with your friends, show some love, and we'll see you next Tuesday on Money Moves. Thanks, everybody.